Hi, Exotical Saucies. It is your girl, Exotical Sauce, coming back at you with another video. And today I want to talk about church. So, I am a believer in God. So, from time to time, I will mention God on the channel. If you're not a believer in God or a Christian or anything like that, it's no judgment. I'm not one to push my views onto other people. So lately I've been having like a few setbacks. My family have gotten a little discouraged. I've gotten a little bit discouraged. Nothing serious, but it's just life. But, I thought it would be cool to try to find like a really nice church that we can belong to, maybe for some encouragement and some enlightenment and good old-fashioned Christian fellowship, just to kind of stay grounded in the faith. Sometimes going around people who are of like mind as you are can be a breath of fresh air. I didn't grow up in the church, so the idea of like making that level of commitment seems a little scary to me. I'm kind of on the fence because I've visited a few churches that really weren't a good fit for me, I guess. And they didn't really fit because it didn't like they didn't really it didn't they didn't fulfill the perceived ideal of what church would look like to me, I guess. Like, I always admired pastors like Miles Monroe and Charles Stanley, where they were just kind of straight to the straightforward, straight to the point kind of people. They weren't really into a lot of the theatrics that a lot of churches have. So I guess it took a while for me to see the things that I didn't like to learn more about what I do like, if that makes sense. So what I don't like is churches that have pastors and first ladies that look kind of like this, with the gaudy jewelry, the gaudy suits, the lavish lifestyle. And it's like overtly lavish, like right there in your face. Big, huge mansion, stuff like that. Now, clearly, prosperity is subjective. Prosperity means different things to different people. But clearly, if you are following Pastor Whitehead in particular, and I'm just talking about him because he was famous, but there are plenty of pastors that are just like him that are unknown. But if you follow him, it's because you're looking for some kind of financial gain. You want to be like him, you idolize him, and he's basically sending the message that if you follow me and you listen to me and follow my church, join my church, then you will have financial prosperity just like me. But of course, that's just my opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm a firm believer in you are what you attract. So his example, I'd rather follow a pastor and join a church that was a little bit more serious, or what I perceive as serious, with their message regarding the faith. So I would not choose someone like Pastor Whitehead, but there are a lot of people that do follow people like that. And that is one thing I do not like. Like, another thing I don't like is like pastors that come in and they have expensive suits on. I don't know how to price men's suits, but listen, if they're dressed better than the congregation, to me that's like, if you're driving better, eating better, looking better, that's just not, or that's not something that I would choose to follow, because the pastor is supposed to be more or less a servant and exhibit more humility than that. And Pastor Whitehead, or pastors like that, is the epitome of what the scriptures tell you not to be like, not to be arrogant and embracing lavishness and things like that. Like, I'm not big on pastors that seemingly like put themselves first. Like, they got the best parking space and the elderly have to walk across the parking lot. They have this like egotistical way of preaching where they get up in front of the congregation and they kind of like pit the members against each other in a subtle kind of way. Like, they'll get up and tell the congregation like how jacked up the society is and how much better their congregation is than everybody else in society, because you got up at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning and came and sat in church to listen to me. So, that puts you a step ahead of everybody else. That makes you better in society and more anointed than everybody else. And the last thing I want to do is join a church when, like one day I might skip and then the next Sunday or Saturday or whenever services are, they come up to me and say, hey, well, I didn't see you last week in church. What happened? Well, I was at work, I worked late and blah, blah, blah. Well, I work late too. I worked a double and I still managed to get up and come in here and come to church. You could, if I can do it, you can do it. And I get it, I guess that's their way of just kind of looking out for me or whatever, telling me that, you should come to church. It was a beautiful service and it's good for you to come, better for you to come than not to. I get it, but I'm just don't like to have to feel like I have to answer to another adult or somebody else checking me or questioning me about my whereabouts. Like I know I'm just too set in my way to even look at it that way. I would get offended. Like, maybe that's just me, but I just would like to have a church or like belong to a church where people could just like mind their fucking business. And I know that people are just going to be people. It doesn't matter like how old you are or how hard you thump that Bible or how many laps you take around that church. People are still going to be people. People want to gossip. They want to get in your business and they want to find out why you didn't come to church or why Bobby Sue and Tommy Lee, who are married, are sitting on opposite ends of the pew and they took separate cars and they're not really speaking to each other. And all of a sudden now all these older ladies who you've never talked to before, now they want to come up and offer a listening ear and a shoulder to cry on and giving you some encouragement. You can talk to me anytime you want to. Take down my number. I'm going to pray for you, my dear. And then they ask, are you doing okay? How are you feeling today? Trying to pry and figure out what's happening between you and Tommy Lee and why you and Tommy Lee aren't speaking. Just being people. And another thing about it is I don't really like the fact that a lot of churches expect you to like dress up. Like, I really look at church. I mean, like, it has its own culture pretty much, like its own clothing, its own code of conduct, its own etiquette. Of course there's church etiquette, but I mean, I like the churches that let you come to church as you are. They you can come in a hoodie, you can come in jeans, you can come in like a nice little casual dress or some khakis and a button up. As long as you're clean and presentable and well groomed, people don't have a problem with how you look. Another thing with the church is I don't like being manipulated. Like, I don't like those little manipulative stories about how they tell you, well, yeah, me and First Lady got invited by this church family member, a nameless, faceless person whose name they never mentioned. So you couldn't pray for that person if you wanted to because you don't know their name. And they say they were invited to pray for one of their loved ones who is in the hospital with tubes and things like that hooked up to them and hooked up to 2 machines. And then they went in there and they prayed for their loved one, and then the loved one just rose up and started doing Jesus dances by the time they left the hospital. And I'm like, okay, where's the exit? Like, I mean, if your prayers are that good, then go do it again. And this time, when you do it again, take out your camera so I can see this. Like, I've heard that same story several times from several different pastors. And it's like, if you have to resort to manipulation tactics and then tie up the faith with your tactics, like, to me, that is just very despicable. And I'm so good on you. One time I heard a pastor stand up in front of the congregation when it came time to pass the collection plate. He said, listen, I want 10 of you to each give me a love offering of $1,000. He said, I know you got it and I know you can do it. Do it for Jesus. You would not believe how fast they reach into those purses and grab big wads of money, like hundreds and 20s and 50s, just like flipping through all those big bills, and they hold it up high enough so the people behind them and the people next to them can see it. And they're just like flipping through these bills like you know, getting ready to drop that into the collection plate. And they do. And then this one particular pastor will say, hey, hold it up in the air and wave it around like you just don't care. And hey, and they cheer for themselves. He said, give yourselves a big round of applause. And the people who gave the $1,000, he calls them out by name. So they get the little cheers. And they drop that stuff in that collection plate. And hey, the pastor just walked away with a cool 10,000. At least he knows he's got at least 10,000 in that basket. And the pastor walks away, goes home. He's eating better than you, driving better than you, living better than you. His clothes are better, more expensive. His jewelry is more expensive than yours. And living better. I mean, living in lavish mansions, private jets, and just living it up based off of what you threw in that basket. And, people are just barely making it, living in low income apartments, because a lot of people are elderly with a fixed income that attend those churches. A lot of people are barely scraping by. They have a nice little modest house and a nice little modest affordable little neighborhood so that they can raise a little family. And these kinds of pastors are getting over. And then those same people who just gave the pastor $1,000 love offering or whatever they want to call it, and drop your whole rent payment in the basket for Jesus. You see those same people on the street, a homeless person, ask them for $1, and they're like, well, no, I can't do that because you're just gonna buy drugs with my dollar. Well, I'm looking like, well, what the hell you think pastor is doing with your $300 or your $1,000? He's in your face driving a Mercedes truck or a Rolls Royce, and you don't even bat an eye. You give it to him without even asking. Proudly, you dancing while you throwing it in there. So that's why I just can't, and that's why a lot of people are making documentaries and little videos on YouTube about why people are leaving the church, the black church in particular, because of stuff like that. So yeah, I'm still on the fence about joining a church. I have to really look and see and visit a lot of churches and spend time there to figure out what I want and what would be a good fit for me, because being manipulated, the fashion show, the some of the antics, the running around the church, the high emotional responses with the Holy Ghost, Holy Spirit praise and worship section. Some people refer to it as like a high spirit church, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not trying to throw shade on how different people worship. That's just not me. And if I don't engage in the high spirit worship that others expect me to, I'm not going to fit into that particular church. So that's why it's subjective. It depends on what you're looking for. It depends on how you are and how, just what fits you best. So those are just some of the things that I look for when I don't pick a church. So let me know in the comments what you think, if you're a Christian, and how you pick a church. Like, what are some things that you want to see in a church or a congregation or a pastor? Just let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Stay saucy.